Start. In fact,
no, you might not start, Minister. I asked the question to
Mr. Chair
Mr.
for permission to start.
But you're a witness, Minister, so it's my time.
Today, Justin Trudeau suggested that prolonged, continued economic lockdown, so shuttering of businesses, restaurants, etc., actually help businesses. He said that right in a press conference today. I know many of you are suffering with the issues of isolation from all of these lockdowns, which were always supposed to be temporary. Remember that? You're suffering with mental health issues. For those of you who've written to my office, I know, and I feel your pain. Many of you are like me, and you end up separated from your family at months at a time. You've lost your job. You've lost your businesses. So this statement is just so bourgeois. So I asked a very simple question today. We had officials from Health Canada at our committee, and I asked, what data are you using that shows that prolonged economic lockdown actually reduces COVID cases, because they're projecting an increase in COVID cases? And what data are you using to evaluate that against the negative societal impacts of everything that I just talked about there? What happened was crazy. Watch the Liberals try and shut me down on asking this important question that every Canadian should know the answer to.
So this morning, the Prime Minister suggested that businesses were better off because of lockdowns.
Going into lockdown and supporting businesses while we're in that lockdown is a better way of ensuring their success in a few months, in a few years.
And as a legislator, I've been trying to figure out, especially given the amount in these estimates, trying to figure out if the measures that have been put in place are actually working, especially given the projections on new caseloads. So I'm just wondering if you could point me to any publicly available federal data that's been used, I guess this would be Mr. Linklater, to suggest that repetitive COVID lockdown has better impact on Canadian society than the negative societal impact of, let's say, job losses, mental health, as was just discussed, being separated from family. I'm just trying to look at, that's a big statement that was made this morning. So is there a publicly available repository of federal data, federally collected data, that I could use as a legislator to evaluate that statement?
Mr. Chair, if I might start. In fact,
no, you might not start, Minister. I asked the question to Mr.
Chair for permission to start.
But you're a witness, Minister, so it's my time.
Ms. Van.
Thank you.
Ms. Rempel Garner, I'd like the Minister to respond.
Point of order, Chair. Point of order, Chair. Point of order, Chair. I understand.
I'm responding.
Point of order, Chair.
I hear your point of order. I will take up your point of order in due course. It is appropriate for us to treat the witnesses with respect and courtesy, and I believe if the Minister wishes to answer questions that is put to her officials, I think she's entitled to do so.
That with Mr. Linklater.
Point of order, Chair.
Go ahead with your point of order.
Point of order, Chair. This is my time to question witnesses, and quite frankly, to suggest that it is not respectful for me to be asking for information on how data is being used and collected on interventions that are costing millions of jobs and thousands of lives is frankly, as a woman, I find it kind of sexist, because that's always what you say to me is, oh, it's being disrespectful. These are tough questions, and I get to ask them to who I want to ask them to. It is my job as a parliamentarian, and I'm tired of this. I understand that the Minister might not like the question, but it is me who gets the floor. Am I clear?
Ms. Rempel Garner,
Mr. Chair, my point of order, Mr. Chair.
Hold up. I did not say you were disrespectful for asking the question. I just said that it's appropriate for the witnesses to have time to answer the questions that are asked.
The Minister was the one who interrupted me.
Don't interrupt me, please.
The Minister interrupted me.
Do not interrupt me, please. It is responsibility. The Minister is responsible for her officials. If she wishes to answer on their behalf, I'm perfectly ready, willing, and able to accept that.
Point of order, Chair.
Mr. Van Byno,
I am
Mr. Van
not done with
Bynen,
my
Yeah.
point of order, Chair. I am not done with
Mr.
my
Van
point of
Bynen
order.
is
You have not
responding.
ruled on my point of
Point of
order.
order,
On that
Mr.
point of
Ms.
order.
Rempel Garner, you have a further.
Thank you. To Mr. Van Vynen's point, it is me who directs the questions. And I understand that the minister might want to answer, but she is here in her capacity as minister. And I am directing my questions as a parliamentarian. It is my job right now to be scrutinizing the estimates, which is about $1 billion, on behalf of my constituents. I did the preparatory work, and I get to ask who I want. This is not the minister's show to control. I am asking the person who is in charge of data questions about data, and I would like the answer from him. If the minister would like to go and do a show at Rideau Cottage tomorrow with the Prime Minister, she is welcome to do that. In the meantime, I would like to get my question answered from Mr. Linklater.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you, Ms.
in the interest of time, why don't we just have Mr. Linklater answer the question?
Very well. Thank you, Minister. Go ahead, Mr. Linklater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I understand, the question is the use of data for the development of broader relief programs. And of course, relief programming is beyond the ambit of the Department of Health. Many departments, including the Department of Finance and others, would be intimately involved in developing those types of programs based on various data sets.
So I guess what I'm asking is, ostensibly we're managing to preventing the spread of COVID, but we've seen the number of COVID cases rise. So what data would parliamentarians be using right now at the federal levels on if interventions that are being suggested, including economic lockdown, have a greater impact on the health of Canadians, or are the downside of it? It's actually having a negative impact on things like mental health, that job losses. Like what is Health Canada? Have you provided any recommendations to Health Canada or to the government to perhaps put together a better data repository that we could use to evaluate those particular questions? Because I think they're top of mind to many Canadians.
Mr. Chair, again, thank you for the question. As I mentioned earlier, the common data set that's been agreed by public health officials has been one of the key developments in trying to bring a more holistic public health data lens to COVID. I would perhaps suggest Dr. Tam would like to add on this point, given her exposure to this and as a clinician.
Yeah, so the measures in terms of restrictive public health measures is done by the province or the local health units and using their data. So they will have flexibility on that. We do not suggest one way or another which kind of business or measures should be enacted. So provinces have been providing us with their case data and this new national data set with a bit more information, including race-based data. But
Just
stats
a question. I have 30 seconds left, and I just wanted to clarify on this. For example, I know we don't have occupational health data from certain provinces and whatnot. So there has been no effort to date to recommend to the government a more fulsome federal data gathering system from the provinces on, let's say, the efficacy of lockdown.
There has been this investment that people has already been in sort of mentioned, but this is to develop a national health data strategy. So that is
when will
the
that be done?
recommendation.
When will that be done?
Thank you, Ms. Rempel Garner.